Ancient warnings in the void. Admiral Dextra stood on the command bridge of the Imperial dreadnought Crimson Talon, her forearms crossed behind her back as she studied the massive structure floating in the darkness ahead. Her scaled skin shifted from deep purple to a concerned blue as her species did when faced with the unknown. The object was enormous, easily the size of a small planet, and it was old. "Very old report, Navigator Zephyl," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority that had made her the youngest admiral in Krillian history. The insectoid navigator's compound eyes reflected the soft glow of his instruments. "Admiral, our sensors indicate the structure is approximately 800 years old. The design is completely unknown to us, but the materials suggest an advanced civilization, more advanced than anything in our current records." That's Ceres, second in command. Commander Voshel approached with fluid grace. His crystalline body chimed softly as he moved. "Admiral, we've detected energy signatures throughout the structure. Whatever built this, it's still active. Any signs of life?" Vexra asked. "Negative, Admiral, but there's something else. The structure is broadcasting on multiple frequencies. The same message, repeated over and over in thousands of languages. Our translation matrix is working on it now." Vexra felt a chill run through her. The Krillian Empire had conquered 17 star systems in the past century. They had encountered the ruins of many civilizations, but nothing like this. Nothing that had survived for 8 centuries and continued broadcasting. "Put the message through our speakers," she ordered. The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of the ship's engines. Then a voice filled the air, speaking in perfect Krillian. The words were simple, but they carried a weight that made everyone present feel uneasy. "The cost of war will break you. The cost of war will break you." The message repeated without variation, never stopping, never changing. It had been repeating for 800 years. "How long has it been broadcasting this message?" Dextra asked quietly. Navigator Zephyl checked his instruments. "According to our analysis, approximately 812 years, Admiral. It has never stopped." Dextra walked to the main viewing screen and stared at the ancient structure. It was not built for war. The design was too elegant, too peaceful. It looked more like a monument or a library than a military installation. "Commander Voshel, what else can you tell me about this thing?" The crystalline being's body resonated with thought. "Admiral, I'm detecting docking bays designed for multiple species. The structure appears to be built to receive visitors. There are also massive data storage systems throughout the facility. This may be some kind of archive, an archive that warns about war," Dextra mused. "Interesting. Any defenses?" "None that we can detect, Admiral. If anything, it seems designed to welcome visitors safely." Chief Science Officer Crothus, a massive bear-like creature with 6 limbs, looked up from his station. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the energy readings from the structure. The power source is unlike anything I've encountered. It appears to be self-sustaining and could run indefinitely." Dextra made her decision. "Prepare a boarding party." "We're going aboard, Admiral." Commander Voshel chimed with concern. "We know nothing about this structure or its creators. It could be dangerous. If they wanted to harm us, they would have done so already," Vexra replied. "We've been here for 2 hours, and nothing has happened. Besides, anything that broadcasts a warning about war for 8 centuries deserves our attention." The boarding party consisted of 12 Krillians from various species within the Empire. They wore full environmental suits and carried both scientific equipment and weapons. As their shuttle approached the ancient structure, docking bays opened automatically, guiding them to a safe landing with soft blue lights. The moment they stepped inside, the artificial gravity activated. The atmosphere was breathable for all species present, and the temperature was perfectly comfortable. More importantly, the walls around them began to change. Strange symbols shifted and rearranged themselves until they formed text in Krillian. Voshal-S crystalline language, Krolthus-S Berkland script, and the languages of every species in their boarding party. Welcome. Visitors from the Krillian Empire, the walls now read. Please proceed to the Central Archive for orientation. You have come seeking answers about war. We have been waiting to provide them. The structure is adapting to us, Science Officer Krothus observed. It scanned our group and adjusted everything for our comfort and understanding. The technology required for this is incredible. As they moved deeper into the structure, Admiral Dextra noticed that everything was perfectly maintained. There was no dust, no decay, no signs of age or neglect. It was as if the facility had been built yesterday, not 8 centuries ago. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with holographic displays and strange devices that hummed with quiet energy. At the center of the room, a figure materialized. It was tall, bipedal, with smooth skin and an upright posture. The being had only 2 arms, 2 legs, and a single head with 2 eyes. Welcome, the figure said, its voice warm and somehow sad. I am Professor Marcus Chen, and I represent the species that built this archive. We called ourselves humans, and we have been waiting for you to arrive. Admiral Vextra kept her weapon ready, but did not aim it at the figure. You're a hologram. I am, Professor Chen confirmed. My people are gone now. I am all that remains, preserved here to share our story. You are warriors, are you not? Your empire expands through conquest, taking worlds and species under your rule. We are, Lexra said carefully. The Krillian Empire brings order and progress to the galaxy. Professor Chen's expression grew even sadder. Yes, we told ourselves the same thing once. We convinced ourselves that our conquests were noble, that our victories served a greater purpose. Would you like to understand what we learned about war and victory? About the true cost of always winning? The chamber around them began to shift and change. The walls disappeared, replaced by a vast space filled with floating displays showing battles, strategies, and the rise and fall of civilizations. This is our archive, Professor Chen explained. It contains the complete military history of humanity. Every war we fought, every victory we achieved, every lesson we learned. Most importantly, it contains the story of what happened when we became too good at war. Commander Vashal-S crystalline form resonated with curiosity. Too good at war. Is such a thing possible? Oh yes, Professor Chen replied. It is not only possible, it is the most dangerous thing that can happen to a warlike species. Come, let me show you how humanity began. The space around them transformed. They found themselves standing in a primitive landscape, watching early humans fighting with stone weapons and crude tools. The battles were chaotic, brutal, and inefficient. This is where we started, Professor Chen said. Thousands of years ago, on our home world, we were weak, slow, and had no natural weapons. But we had something else. We learned from every fight. Every defeat taught us something new about survival. The scene changed, showing humans developing better weapons, better tactics, better coordination. They watched centuries of human warfare evolve from simple tribal conflicts to organized armies with complex strategies. We were not the strongest species on our world, Professor Chen continued. We were not the fastest or the most naturally armed. But we learned faster than anything else. Every enemy taught us their strengths and weaknesses. Every battle made us smarter, more efficient, more deadly. Admiral Vextra watched with growing interest. Her own species had followed a similar path, learning and adapting through countless conflicts. But there was something different about the humans. Their capacity for learning seemed unlimited. The displays showed human civilization spreading across their planet, then to other worlds, then to other star systems. With each expansion, they encountered new enemies and new challenges. And with each encounter, they became more sophisticated in their approach to war. We met other species, Professor Chen said. Some were friendly, some were hostile. Those who chose to fight us taught us their techniques. We absorbed their knowledge, improved upon their strategies, and eventually surpassed them all. Asterisk Science Officer Krolthus studied the tactical displays with professional interest. Their learning curve is remarkable. Each generation of warfare is significantly more advanced than the last. Yes, Professor Chen agreed. That was our gift and our curse. We never stopped improving. We never reached a point where we said, this is enough. We always found ways to become more effective, more efficient, more deadly. The scenes continued to evolve, showing humans developing increasingly advanced military technology, energy weapons, faster than light travel, planetary defense systems, and weapons capable of destroying entire star systems. We became very good at war, Professor Chen said quietly. So good that other species began surrendering rather than face us in battle. So good that our mere reputation was enough to end conflicts before they began. So good that victory became routine. That sounds ideal, Commander Vosel chimed. To be so strong that war becomes unnecessary. Professor Chen turned to look at them, and his holographic eyes were filled with ancient pain. Does it? Tell me, Commander. What happens to a warrior when there are no more battles to fight? What happens to a species that perfects the art of war? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Admiral Dextra felt something cold forming in her stomach. The Krillian Empire was following a similar path. They conquered species after species, always becoming more efficient, always winning more easily. Show us, she said quietly. Very well, Professor Chen replied. But remember, you asked to see this. What I'm about to show you is the reason we built this archive. It's the reason we broadcast our warning across the galaxy. And it's the reason humanity no longer exists in this universe. The chamber began to shift again, and Admiral Dextra realized they were about to witness something that would change her understanding of war, victory, and the price of perfection forever. The message echoing through the station suddenly carried new weight. The cost of war will break you. She was beginning to understand that this wasn't just a warning about losing battles. It was a warning about winning too many of them. Asterisk. When victory becomes defeat, the archive around them transformed into something magnificent and terrible. Admiral Vexra found herself standing in what appeared to be a command center overlooking the galaxy itself. Millions of stars spread out before them, and many were marked with human symbols indicating conquered territories. This is humanity at the height of our power, Professor Chen said, his voice carrying a mixture of pride and deep regret. We had spent 3,000 years perfecting the art of war. By this time, we controlled over 40% of this galaxy. The displays showed massive human fleets moving between star systems with perfect coordination. Their ships were sleek and deadly, designed with centuries of combat experience. But what struck Admiral Vextra most was the efficiency of their movements. There was no wasted motion, no unnecessary aggression. They moved like a machine built for one purpose. The Zelthari Confederacy, Professor Chen continued, highlighting a cluster of systems. They had ruled this sector for 5,000 years. Their military was considered unbeatable by every species that had encountered them. They had never lost a major battle. The scene shifted to show a confrontation between human and Zelthari fleets. The alien ships were massive, heavily armored, and outnumbered the human forces 3-1. Commander Voshal's crystalline body chimed with interest as he analyzed the tactical situation. The humans are vastly outnumbered, he observed. How did they expect to win? Watch, Professor Chen replied simply. The battle began, and it was unlike anything the Krillian boarding party had ever witnessed. The human fleet moved with surgical precision, each ship knowing exactly where to be and when. They didn't rely on superior firepower or advanced technology. Instead, they used perfect timing, flawless coordination, and centuries of accumulated tactical knowledge. The Zelthari fleet, despite its size and power, found itself outmaneuvered at every turn. Human ships appeared where the aliens least expected them, struck with devastating efficiency, and vanished before the enemy could respond. Within 4 hours, the entire Zelthari fleet was destroyed or captured. 4 hours, Navigator Zephyl buzzed with amazement. They defeated a force 3 times their size in 4 hours. Zelthari had never encountered opponents who learned as quickly as humans, Professor Chen explained. Every tactic they used, we absorbed and improved upon. Every weapon they deployed, we found a counter for. By the end of the battle, we knew their military doctrine better than they did. Science Officer Crothus studied the aftermath of the battle. The human casualties are minimal. They lost less than 50 ships out of a fleet of 2,000. Yes, Professor Chen said sadly. We had become very good at winning without dying. But watch what happened to our people after these victories. The scene shifted. To show human soldiers and officers after the battle. They moved through captured Zelthari vessels and stations, but something was wrong with them. Their faces were blank, emotionless. They carried out their duties with mechanical precision, but showed no joy in victory. No satisfaction in their accomplishment. We had fought so many wars that victory had lost all meaning. Professor Chen continued. Our soldiers no longer felt pride in their achievements. Our officers no longer experienced the thrill of tactical success. War had become just another job, and we were very good at our job. Admiral Vextra felt a chill of recognition. She remembered her own recent victories, how routine they had become. The thrill of battle had faded years ago, replaced by professional competence and cold efficiency. What happened to the Zelthari? She asked. They surrendered completely, Professor Chen replied. Not just their military, but their entire civilization. They had heard what happened to species that continued to resist us. Total surrender became preferable to total destruction. The displays showed dozens of similar conquests. Species after species choosing submission over annihilation. The human military machine rolled across the galaxy, unstoppable and unstoppable, leaving behind a trail of defeated civilizations and empty victories. By the end, we barely had to fight at all, Professor Chen said. Our reputation preceded us. species would surrender the moment our fleets appeared in their space. We had achieved the ultimate military goal, victory without battle. There should have been cause for celebration. Commander Vossel chimed. Should it? Professor Chen asked. Let me show you what happened to humanity when we ran out of enemies to fight. The scene changed. To show human worlds in the years following their final conquests. The military remained active, but they had nothing to do. Soldiers trained endlessly for battles that would never come. Commanders planned strategies for enemies that no longer existed. Engineers designed weapons for wars that had already ended. We had built our entire civilization around being the best at war. Professor Chen continued. Our education system trained warriors. Our economy produced military equipment. Our culture celebrated conquest. But what happens to such a civilization when conquest is complete? The humans in the simulation began to change in disturbing ways. Some became depressed, unable to find meaning in a peaceful galaxy. Others became restless, desperately seeking new conflicts to justify their existence. The most troubling were those who simply stopped caring, going through the motions of their duties while feeling nothing at all. We tried to adapt, Professor Chen said. We attempted to focus on exploration, science, art, philosophy. But we had spent millennia perfecting war, and we had forgotten how to do anything else well. Our scientists approached research like military campaigns. Our artists created works that celebrated only violence and conquest. Our philosophers could only debate the nature of victory and defeat. Admiral Vextra watched in growing horror as human society began to collapse from within. Not from external threats or natural disasters, but from simple lack of purpose. They had won everything, and in doing so, had lost themselves. The Great Silence. Professor Chen announced as the simulation showed empty human cities and abandoned military bases. That's what historians called the period after our final victory. 50 years of a species slowly dying from the inside. But surely some of your people found other purposes, Science Officer Crothus said. Not everyone can be a warrior. You would think so, Professor Chen replied. But when a civilization spends 3,000 years optimizing for war, it changes everyone. Our farmers grew food to feed armies. Our teachers trained future generals. Our merchants supplied military equipment. Every aspect of our society was connected to conquest. The simulation showed the gradual abandonment of human worlds. People leaving for the frontier, seeking something they couldn't name. Others retreating into virtual realities where they could fight endless simulated wars. Many simply gave up, unable to find meaning in a universe they had already conquered. This is why we built this archive, Professor Chen said. Not to celebrate our victories or preserve our military knowledge for others to use. We built it as a warning. A warning about what? Admiral Vextra asked, though she was beginning to understand. About the true cost of perfecting war, Professor Chen replied. About what happens when a species becomes so good at fighting that fighting loses all meaning. About the hollow victory of conquering everything and having nothing left to conquer. The archive shifted one final time, showing the last chapter of human history. Two human factions facing each other across a star system, preparing for a civil war that would destroy them both. The final war, Professor Chen announced. When we could no longer find external enemies, we turned on ourselves. The expansionists, who wanted to continue seeking new galaxies to conquer, fought against the pacifists, who wanted to learn how to live without war. Both sides used all the military knowledge we had accumulated over 3 millennia. Asterisk. The battle was brief and total. Human weapons designed to destroy alien fleets proved equally effective against human ships. Tactics developed through centuries of conquest worked perfectly when used against their own creators. In 6 months, both fleets were annihilated, taking with them the last remnants of human civilization. We destroyed ourselves with our own perfection, Professor Chen said quietly. The cost of war had finally broken us, just as our warning says. Not through defeat, but through victory. Not through weakness, but through strength. The archive returned to its library form, and Professor Chen turned to face the Krillian boarding party. Your empire follows the same path we did, Admiral Dextra. You conquer species after species, always becoming more efficient, always winning more easily. How many victories will it take before your people lose the ability to feel joy in triumph? How many conquests before war becomes meaningless routine? Admiral Dextra felt the weight of the human's words. The Krillian Empire had indeed grown more efficient with each campaign. Their recent victories had felt hollow, almost boring in their predictability. What would you have us do? She asked. Stop expanding. Allow other species to threaten our people. I would have you remember why you fight, Professor Chen replied. Remember that war should be a last resort, not a way of life. Remember that victory should serve a greater purpose than simply proving you can win. And most importantly, remember that there is wisdom in knowing when to stop. Commander Vachel chimed softly. But surely some conquest is necessary. The strong must lead the weak, must they? Professor Chen asked. Or is that simply what we tell ourselves to justify our actions? Humanity told ourselves we brought order to the galaxy. We convinced ourselves our conquests served the greater good. But in the end, we brought only ourselves. And when we had conquered everything else, we had no choice but to conquer ourselves. Science Officer Crothus studied the archive around them. This facility contains incredible military knowledge, tactics and strategies that could make any species invincible. Yes, Professor Chen agreed, and I offer it all freely to anyone who visits this archive. But I also offer them our story, our warning, and our hope that they will be wiser than we were. Admiral Vextra looked around at her crew, seeing her own doubts reflected in their faces. The Krillian Empire was at the height of its power, conquering system after system with increasing ease. But the humans had reached that same height, and it had destroyed them. What do you want from us? She asked finally. Nothing, Professor Chen replied. The choice is yours to make, as it was ours. I simply offer you the chance to learn from our mistakes, to understand that the cost of war is not measured only in ships lost and lives ended, but in what victory does to the victorious. The holographic human began to fade. The archive will remain here for as long as the galaxy exists. Anyone seeking to understand the true nature of war and conquest may visit and learn. That is humanity's final gift to the universe. The wisdom we gained through our own destruction. As Professor Chen disappeared, the chamber fell silent except for the distant echo of humanity's final broadcast. The cost of war will break you. Admiral Dextra stood in the ancient archive, surrounded by the accumulated wisdom of a species that had mastered war so completely that mastery became their doom. The choice now lay before the Krillian Empire: continue down the path of endless conquest, or find the wisdom to stop before perfection destroyed them as it had destroyed humanity. The cost of war would indeed break them, but perhaps, With humanity's warning echoing across the centuries, they could choose to break the cycle instead. Asterisk.